All right, good morning, boys and girls. So last we were together, we showed model where you were using number line, you used the circle model, the bar model, and I had questions that came in to say, how do you multiply a fraction and a mixed number using an area model? So I'm going to go through today and do the number two-thirds of the sugar, which was 1 3/4, using an area model. So we've done area model when we were back at school. So we're going to do area model today, showing what is 2/3 of 1 3/4. So in order to get 1 3/4, I'm going to have to do two rectangles. Two rectangles because 1 3/4 is greater than 1, but not 2. It's not 2 wholes. So in order to get 1 whole, I'm going to have to do 1 whole. Then the second whole, I'm going to have to divide it into fourth. So first I'm going to do is take my 1 whole and divide it into 2/3. So this is 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, which makes up my 1 whole. So this is my 1 whole, and I want to take 2/3 of it. So 2/3 would be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. But of those 3, I want 2 of them. So I'm going to shade in 2 of them. 2 of the thirds. So this is 1/3. And this is another third, and 1/3 plus another 1/3 makes 2/3. So these are my 2/3 of the whole cup of sugar. So that's 1, 2, 2/3. Now I have the fourth, or the second cup of sugar that's divided into fourth. And I want to shade in. If you look at my second cup, I have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4 makes the whole cup of sugar. But I only want to shade in 2/3 of those 4/4 cups of sugar. So how do I get 2/3 of the 4/4? So if you look at it, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, which makes a total of 12/4 cups of sugar. So I want to shade in 2/3 of the 3/4. So if I'm looking at 3/4, 1/4, 2/4, and another one makes 3/4. So these are my 4/4. This is the fourth one, but I only want to do 3 out of the 4. 1, 2, 3. But I want to do 2/3. So I'm going to do the one that's here as well. So all total, I had 12/4 cups of sugar, and I'm shading in 2/3 or 2 out of 3 of them. If I count now, how many rectangles did I shade in? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have 6. In all total, I had 12 altogether, because if you count all of the squares there, I had 12. So here I have 2 out of 3. And here I have 6 out of 12. Now I'm going to stop the video here. I want you to pause the video here. And I want you to say, how many is shaded in? Okay, so now you found 2/3 of the 1 cup of sugar, and you found 2/3 of the 2nd cup of sugar, which was divided into 4. We have to put them together. So now we're going to add them together. In order to add fractions, you know that we must have a common denominator. We're working with 3 and 12. What's going to be our common denominator? We know that it has to be a number that both 3 and 12 will divide into evenly. And we're going to add this. We're going to add it to this to get what is 2/3 of 1 and 3/4. That's what we're trying to find. So we have 2/3 plus 6/12. And we need a common denominator. So let's write it so that we can find that common denominator. 2/3 plus 6/12. We're looking for equivalent fractions such that 3 and 12 will divide into the denominator. So what's going to be the common denominator? So if you said 12, 12 is correct. So what happened to 12 in order to get it to 12? You had to multiply it by 1. Do the same thing with the numerator. What is 6 times 1? 6 times 1 equals 6. Okay? What happened to 3 in order to get it to 12? You had to multiply by 4. If you multiply the denominator by 4, you must also multiply the numerator by 4. And 2 times 4 is equal to 8. Now that the denominators are the same, we can add the numerators. So let's add the numerator. We have 8/12 plus 6/12, and that's going to give us how many 12s? You said 14, that is correct. 14/12. 14/12 is a fraction greater than 1, which means we can simplify that. So let's simplify that. How many 12s can we take out of 14? We can take 1/12 out of 14, and how many would be left over? We would have 2 12s left over. Now 2 and 12 have a common factor. What's the common factor that 2 and 12 have in common? 2 and 12 have a common factor of 2, which means I can factor out of 2, and that becomes 1 whole. How many 2's can I take out of 2? 1. And how many 2's can I take out of 12? 6. So, if we were looking for what is 2/3 of 1 3/4, which was the original amount of sugar, we could say that we would need 1 1/6 cups of sugar to make 2/3 of the recipe. So once again, in order to do a fraction times a mixed number, you're going to need that mixed number to be 1 whole, and then you're going to need the fraction. This is 1 3/4, and this is 1 2 3. That 1 whole was divided into thirds, and this 4th was divided into 2/3 of 12. All right, so as we conclude today's lesson, at the end of this, you're going to have 5 questions that you are going to answer such that we can come to the close of our multiplying fraction unit, and we are going to start our next lesson with dividing fractions. So, if you have any questions, please Google me, inbox, send an email, but please complete the Google form where you're going to do short answers. You're going to work out and you're going to give me the answers for your questions such that we can bring the multiplication unit to a close. So stay safe and have fun.